Catus, Maximus here, this time with a review of the ThruNite TT20. Yes, they apparently find my reviews tolerable, and so if a company is going to offer me multiple $50, $60, $70 flashlights, I'll go for them. This is a $60 unit off of Amazon, but they have sent me a more modern unit, which they haven't done in the past. I reviewed their TC20, and it was an older unit. Didn't give it such a great review. We do have our manual. Once again, we have a lanyard, some extra rubber grommets, we have a rubber tail switch, USB cover, some extra O-rings, and of course the lanyard. On this one, they didn't include a keychain ring, which on some of the others they do. It does have a belt clip. Do you like the fact that it's a dual direction, so you can have it pointing downwards or upwards, depending on however you like. And of course, you're also able to easily remove it. USB-C comes with a little charging cable, then of course a little pouch for the unit, and some do not eat desiccant gel. Warranty card's a little confusing. They are offering obviously a 30-day return, 2-year replacement. Then if you register on their website, they'll give you an extra 12 months for a total of 3 years. Replacement for defective product, and this is lifetime limited warranty. I think what it is if you're just not satisfied for any reason within 2 years, if you're willing to register an extra 3rd year, they'll just swap out the light. And the limited lifetime warranty, I believe, would not include the battery. It would just be if like the LED element or electronics or maybe the switch just completely failed. So kind of a funky warranty. And they did send this time. I'll get that nice and close so maybe people can scan that QR code. If you subscribe to their YouTube channel, you can get a free flashlight. So, heck, they're really trying to push them out there. All you have to do is do a subscription, and they'll give you a free light. Who knows what it is, but even their cheapest ones are for free. Might be worth it, better than what Harbor Freight was giving away for free. So anyway, to compare to the other ThruNites, the difference between that one and this one I reviewed earlier is this is an 18650 1200 lumen, or around 1200 lumens, and it's one of their cheaper lights. This one's a bit more expensive. This is a 21700 light that's 2500 lumens, so it's basically twice as bright as this. And then this is their TC20. This one is the 3500 lumen 26650 light, and so this is a more modern one. It's similar to this one that I've already reviewed, which is the BSS V4. It just doesn't have such an aggressive ring. It has a bigger battery and is about twice as bright. Similar functions, so since these are more modern, they are USB-C charging, which is definitely pretty nice, although this port cover kind of is difficult to really squeeze in there properly, or will actually prevent water from getting in. I did notice that. Anyway, how these work is you compress and hold, and press and hold again, and then what happens is if you try to use the light, it'll just blink the red. I wish ThruNite would make these lights a little brighter. You can just see how, come on now, if this camera would focus, there we go. It's a really pretty dim light. It glows red when you're charging and blue when it is charged up. And surprisingly enough, it's basically almost the same size, just a little bit more girth and just ever so slightly more length if you got a normal one. A little bit less length because this has this real aggressive. There we go. Press and hold. Both of these do have glass lenses. You can see that the lens diameter is a little bit bigger. I think these both have the same elements. It's just that this one can push more current. And I don't know if we'll see on the table, but we'll go outside in a minute to compare these. We'll compare at least these two. And I'll compare these two to the Super Thrower. I won't compare to this. One thing I will mention, which I should point out, is at least on this one, they'll offer you black, blue, desert tan, or metal gray, cool white, or neutral white. So they do give you 2 different color options. This is the neutral white. And then this is the bluer. You know, it's the difference between like a 3000K or a 5000K or 2700K. Anyway, now we should probably compare these two. You can probably just see the brightness. Whoop. It's pretty close here. We'll have to go outside to really check it out. So it's harder to compare when you have different color temperatures, because one may seem brighter even though it's the same output. So I do want to stay with all the same color temperature. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and compare against this unit, which is their big like 3800 lumen long throw, just for the heck of it. I did want to note that on the TT20 they seem to have done a bit of technology difference. I'll show you why. Since both of these lights are similar, they have a tail switch bypass that just turns it on full turbo mode, which lasts like an hour. Actually, turbo mode only lasts, they say, like 15 minutes or something. 20 minutes on this one, where they say it lasts an hour or more on this one, which makes sense because it has quite a bit higher capacity of battery. But the other thing is, since the tail switch is like a direct bypass versus the button, they have to have essentially they need a third terminal. So on this one, they actually have this interesting spring sleeve, which makes contact on a special ring in there to give them this third terminal, because this is just a standard 18650. What we have here is no extra sleeve, but it also has the same tail switch and button. And you're wondering how they do that. I was a little bit curious. They have a very strange 21700 here. What also I find strange is that their 18650 and their 21700 are 3.6 volt, which would, in my knowledge, limited knowledge, and somebody can correct me, would indicate LiFePO4, lithium ferrophosphate, versus this, which would be like a lithium cobalt, which is 3.7 volts. And I always thought all these are 3.7 volts, so a little bit curious there, but here's the sizes: 18650, 21700, and 26650. It's also interesting because the 26650 still, I think, is a little bit more, has more internal surface area than this, or volume, but it's interesting that they're both rated at the same, and it may just be because this is using a slightly newer chemistry or technology, is why this battery, even though it's slightly smaller in volume, actually has this just about the same capacity. It's lower voltage, so that's 18 watt hours. This one's still 18.5, so this still does put out a little more energy. Anyway, these are all, actually, I think this one's also protected, but these are protected cells. They're actually a little bit higher. This little space is a special circuit, but on this 21700, I was like, what's going on with this little insulator? No, the negative terminal actually comes up around the top, and that's the positive, the little nipple, and then they have an insulator there. So this battery actually has one negative terminal, two negative terminals, and one positive. And then that's essentially how they're getting around this. Let me put this back together so we can get some light. We don't need to be super bright. And you can see down in there, there's the spring, and then you can see that metal ring. That metal ring is what's making contact up here instead of the sleeve like this one had. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway, let's go outside and give these a test. Oh, and before I forget, this is like the big thing that they did add to the TT20 over the other models, because the other models only have low, medium, and high. They're not stepped. So they at least did upgrade this one to where it is a press and hold variable output. And then it flashes when you reach the highest point. And then when you go down, it will flash again when you reach the lowest point. Alright, here we go. Here's the 1200 lumen light versus the new one, the TC20 that I'm reviewing. There's the 1200 lumen, and here's the 2500 lumen. It has a bit more flood. You can see that set of trees over there just a little bit better. And now if we go back to this one's just maybe a little bit tighter. Not as much difference as you would think. But there is. You can definitely tell this 21700 light, the TT20, is quite a bit brighter. And just for giggles, here's their catapult. The 26650. Obviously, this thing is just a really tight, like handheld searchlight. But let's see if we can see it over the top. Whoop. Okay, here's the 1200 lumen, and then here's the 2500. Yeah, you can see that the beam is definitely just a bit more intense. We'll do that one last time. Part of it is the camera's auto-adjusting. But definitely, I mean, you can see that's a pretty large or pretty bright flashlight. I mean, that's on the other side of a baseball diamond on the trees. Not too bad, really. So anyway, there's my little video of the ThruNite TT20. Not a bad little light. Pretty high capacity, 21700 of being 5,000 milliamps, 18 watt hour battery. And something that is just a little bit smaller diameter, a little bit easier to deal with. I wish they would kind of change the functionality, more like the Soferns, where it's like a quad press to lock it out. That way it's a little easier to deal with. Mainly because this lockout, you press it twice and hold it, and then it's locked out. It just blinks the red light. But if it's in a bag, then unlocking it is just a press and hold. So if something's pressing against it, it'll end up unlocking itself, and then all that has to happen is a double press, and then that much light intensity will melt through plastic. I mean, it's starting to burn my hand. Quite a bit of light out of a little flashlight. Lumens, I should say. And so I wish it was like a quad press, because a quick, rapid 4-button quad press is very unlikely to happen carrying it around in a bag. I also wish, let me lock it out again, that the tail switch would work when it's locked out, because this is a pretty stiff tail switch with some protection around it, and it's pretty darn unlikely that you're going to accidentally fully depress the switch in a bag, especially if you kind of put it someplace where you're not pressing on the back. And so that should work while it's locked out, but unfortunately you actually have to unlock it in order for the tail switch to work. So I wish they would just kind of modify that a little bit. But besides that, not a bad little flashlight. Do wish they were a bit cheaper, though. ThruNites are pretty expensive, all things considered. But it is pretty surprising that you can get 2,500 lumens out of just a little light like this. That's like as brighter than a halogen car headlight on high beam. Anyway, really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Till next time, Catus Maximus out.